Have you ever wondered how Casu Marzu is made? This unique and controversial delicacy, hailing from the island of Sardinia in Italy, has captivated culinary enthusiasts and adventurous eaters for generations. Known for its strong flavor and unusual production method, this creation has earned a reputation as one of the world's most extreme gastronomic experiences. In this video, we'll take you on an extraordinary journey through the entire crafting procedure, from the initial sourcing of raw materials to the final result that graces the tables of brave food lovers. We'll explore every intricate step involved in creating this remarkable speciality, shedding light on the traditional techniques and natural processes that give it its distinctive character. Our story begins in the rugged landscapes of Sardinia, where the production of this unique item has been a part of the local culture for centuries. The primary ingredient is sheep's dairy, specifically from Sardinian sheep breeds, such as the Sarda. These sheep are well adapted to the island's harsh terrain and climate, producing a liquid that is rich in flavor and ideal for the production procedure. The sheep are typically raised on small, family-owned farms that have been passed down through generations, with each farmer taking great pride in the quality of their yield. During the lactation season, which typically runs from late autumn to early summer, each sheep can produce up to 2 liters per day. The extraction is often done by hand, especially on smaller farms, to ensure gentle handling of the animals and to maintain the highest quality of the yield. This twice-daily milking routine is a time-honored tradition, with many shepherds rising before dawn to begin the first milking of the day. The dairy used for this specialty is incredibly rich, with a fat content of around 6 to 7% and a protein content of about 5 to 6%. This high fat and protein content is crucial for the development of the unique texture and flavor of the final product. The liquid also contains a higher proportion of short-chain fatty acids compared to cow's milk, which contributes to its distinctive tangy flavor. If you're enjoying this video, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on our upcoming videos. Once the dairy is collected, it undergoes a careful inspection procedure. Experienced artisans examine it for its color, consistency, and aroma, ensuring that only the highest quality is used for production. The liquid should be a rich, creamy white color with no off odors or unusual textures. Any yield that doesn't meet these exacting standards is set aside for other uses. It's then filtered to remove any impurities, a procedure that is often done using traditional methods such as passing it through clean cloths. These cloths, typically made of finely woven linen or cotton, are carefully maintained and replaced regularly to ensure they remain effective at removing even the smallest particles without affecting the flavor or nutritional content. The next stage involves heating the liquid to prepare it for curdling. This is typically done in large copper cauldrons, which are preferred for their excellent heat distribution properties. These cauldrons, known as caldae in Italian, are often family heirlooms, passed down through generations of cheesemakers. They can hold up to 100 liters and are typically heated over wood fires, adding a subtle smoky note to the final product. The liquid is gently heated to a temperature of around 35 degrees Celsius. This temperature is crucial. Too low, and the rennet won't work effectively. Too high, and the proteins will denature, affecting the texture of the final product. Skilled artisans can often judge the temperature by touch alone, dipping their elbow into the liquid to test its warmth. At this point, rennet is added. Traditionally, rennet derived from the stomachs of young lambs was used, although nowadays some producers opt for vegetarian alternatives. The rennet used in traditional production is often still made by hand. It's extracted from the fourth stomach, abomasum, of young lambs that have been fed only on milk. The stomach is cleaned, salted, and dried before being cut into small pieces and soaked in a mixture of water and vinegar. This solution is then strained and added to the warm liquid. The filled molds are placed on slanted tables, allowing the whey to drain away. The cheeses are turned several times during the first few hours to ensure even draining and to help form a smooth rind. After about 6 hours, the formed curds are removed from the molds and placed on wooden shelves to begin the aging procedure. At this point, they are rubbed with salt, which helps to draw out additional moisture and begins to form a protective rind. The salting procedure is repeated daily for about a week, with the artisan carefully monitoring the amount of salt used. Too much salt can inhibit the growth of beneficial bacteria, while too little can leave the cheese vulnerable to harmful microorganisms. The items are aged for about 3 weeks in cool, humid rooms. During this time, they are turned regularly and sometimes rubbed with additional salt or olive oil to prevent the rind from drying out too quickly. It's at this stage that the delicacy begins to develop its flavor and aroma, with beneficial bacteria working to break down the proteins and fats in the curds. Now, we come to the most distinctive and controversial part of the production procedure. After the initial aging period, the artisans deliberately introduce cheese flies, Piophila caseae, to the item. This is typically done by leaving the partially aged pieces outside for a short period, allowing the flies to lay their eggs in the small cracks that have formed in the rind during the aging procedure. The flies, also known as cheese skippers, are tiny insects about 4 millimeters long. They are naturally attracted to the aroma of aging and will seek out any small cracks or fissures in the rind to lay their eggs. Each female fly can lay up to 500 eggs over her lifetime, which typically lasts about a week. The cheese is then returned to the aging room, where the fly eggs hatch into tiny maggots. These tiny creatures begin to eat their way through the curds. As they digest the fats and proteins, they break down the solid structure, resulting in a soft, creamy texture. This procedure also imparts a distinct flavor to the result, which many aficionados describe as intense and slightly spicy. The presence of these tiny inhabitants is closely monitored by the artisans. The ideal scenario is for them to digest the fats, but not to progress to the pupal stage within the cheese. If left unchecked, they could consume too much of the solid matter or develop into flies inside, which would be undesirable. To control this, the artisans may periodically expose the cheese to sunlight, which encourages the maggots to retreat deeper into the cheese. As the item continues to age with the tiny creatures inside, it begins to break down and become very soft. The exterior often develops small holes where they have burrowed, and the interior becomes creamy and almost liquid. This procedure typically continues for several months, with the exact duration depending on various factors, including temperature, humidity, and the desired final consistency. Throughout this unusual aging procedure, the artisans must carefully balance various factors to ensure the quality and safety of the result. The temperature and humidity of the aging room must be carefully controlled to provide an optimal environment for both the curds and the tiny inhabitants. Too warm, and they might develop too quickly; too cool, and the cheese might not break down sufficiently. The ideal temperature for this stage is slightly higher than the initial aging, around 18 to 20 degrees Celsius, with a relative humidity of about 80 to 90%. The aroma becomes increasingly pungent as it ages, developing complex notes that are often described as similar to very strong fermented foods. The texture evolves from a solid to a semi-liquid state, with the breakdown of fats creating a creamy, sometimes even slightly grainy consistency. It's worth noting that the production of this delicacy is not without controversy. Due to health concerns related to the presence of live insects in the food, its production and sale have been banned in many countries, including the European Union. However, it continues to be produced in Sardinia for personal consumption and local distribution, often operating in a legal gray area. Despite these restrictions, it's estimated that thousands of units are produced annually in Sardinia, although exact figures are difficult to come by due to the informal nature of much of the production. As the item reaches its peak condition, it undergoes a final assessment by the producer. This is a crucial step that relies heavily on the artisan's experience and expertise. The piece is examined for its aroma, consistency, and the activity of the tiny inhabitants. A perfectly aged result should have a soft, creamy interior that's almost liquid, with a strong, sharp aroma and a hint of spiciness. The artisans use various traditional methods to determine when the cheese has reached its optimal state. One common technique is to gently press the surface of the rind. If it yields easily and small droplets of creamy liquid emerge from the tiny holes created by the insects, it's considered ready. The sound the item makes when tapped can also indicate its readiness, with a soft, muffled sound suggesting the desired creamy consistency has been achieved. Due to its highly perishable nature and the presence of live insects, the cheese is best consumed fresh and is not suitable for long-term storage or transportation over long distances. It's typically sold and consumed locally in Sardinia, often as part of traditional meals or special occasions. When serving, the top of the item is usually cut open to reveal the creamy interior. It is then spread on traditional Sardinian flatbread known as pane carousel. Some connoisseurs prefer to eat around any visible insects, while others consider them an integral part of the eating experience. While it may not be to everyone's taste, this item stands as a fascinating example of the diversity of world cuisines and the ingenuity of traditional food production methods. If you enjoyed learning about how Casu Marzu is made, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating content on food production.